What has been your experience in finding patterns? What really moves the needle in terms of health, wellness, and cardiovascular health in particular?
Yeah. So I think it's really looking at like I mentioned, the whole picture, but also adding in therapeutic foods. So a lot of times when you have when my clients come home from having a heart attack or going to cardiac rehab, they get a laundry list of what not to eat. Then they don't have a
Mhm.
list of what they can eat. So they're kind of lost. They're afraid. If I eat this, will I have another heart attack? It's a really scary moment.
Are you struggling to get your health under control? Well, you're not alone. According to the CDC, heart disease remains the leading cause of death for men, women, and people of most racial and ethnic groups in the United States. One person dies every 34 seconds in the United States from cardiovascular disease. About 697,000 people in the United States died from heart disease in 2020 alone. That's 1 in every 5 deaths. So stick around, because in this episode of the MHT, we're talking all about how to take control of your own health with Preventive Cardiology Dietitian Michelle Routhenstein. So let's go. Michelle Routhenstein is a Preventive Cardiology Dietitian, Registered Dietitian Nutritionist, and Certified Diabetes Educator who specializes in heart disease management and prevention. She holds a Master's of Science degree in Clinical Nutrition and has completed her nutrition dietetic training residency at New York University. She has over 10 years of experience counseling individuals and families on chronic disease prevention and management through personalized, science-based nutrition and lifestyle medicine. She has a thriving nutrition counseling and consulting private practice in which she sees clients virtual in one-to-one and group settings. She is also the course creator of How to Read Your Blood Tests for Optimal Heart Health. To contact Michelle, you can visit her at www.entirelynourished.com or find her on Instagram at heart.health.nutritionist. So let's dive in. Welcome, Michelle, to the Mental Health Toolbox. Thank you so much for making time to be on today. I super appreciate you sharing your words of wisdom. And health, wellness cannot be separated from mental health. And so it's definitely a worthwhile topic to dive into today, and a personal passion of mine as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. And so, just to kind of jump us off here, you are a cardiology, you specialize in cardiology as a dietitian. Is that right? Preventative
Yes.
care? All
Yeah.
right. So,
So, yeah. So I'm a
yeah.
registered dietitian who specializes in heart disease management and prevention. So this takes into account individuals who are at risk of heart attacks and strokes, or individuals who have a heart condition, whether that's heart failure or cardiomyopathy. It's really a whole gauge of making sure we're protecting your heart by science-based nutrition and lifestyle medicine.
Wow. That is fantastic. Excellent. What a niche. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got into this niche primarily because I was on the route to becoming a doctor,
Hmm.
and I was working in different hospital settings, and I was a pre med major, and I was also a nutrition major. And I realized that, well, one of the patients that I saw in the hospital was a 35-year-old who had an amputation, and he was diabetic and he had a lot of heart issues, but no one really mentioned to him the importance of nutrition. So he was taking all these medications, but he was not looking at it from a preventative standpoint. And so that's when I shifted. And when I became a registered dietitian, I was working in ICU units and cardiac units and weight loss and kidney clinics, in fatty liver weight loss clinics, in every single situation. And the common denominator was people were having heart attacks and heart disease, and that was what was killing them, not kidney disease, not fatty liver. And so when I was doing all of my research, it was really apparent that people look at their conditions in silos. Okay, I have kidney disease, so I only can eat this, versus looking at everything and making sure we're really taking ownership. Then, when you look even further than that, all of these disease states have a very commonality that connects it to heart disease. And so, when we look at statistics globally, the number one killer is heart disease, but 80 to 90% of it is preventable through nutrition and lifestyle medicine. So, why is the gap? And some people can argue, oh, well, people are just not doing it. And that's not the biggest thing is that people are unaware of what is the actual science, how to implement it into their diet, and also create awareness of risk factor modification. People are just not aware. They don't think it's going to happen to them. So I'm very big about advocating and creating awareness, increasing ownership of your health, and really understanding what is the risk factors. What can we do today to prevent heart disease and heart complications going forward?
Wow, that's amazing. So 80 to 90% is preventable.
And it's the number one
This
killer.
is
So
the
that
number one killer.
right, isn't that phenomenal? So that's actually how
Wow.
I got into becoming specialized, because those statistics don't make sense to me. And so one of my missions in this world is to change that statistic. We should be taking more ownership, understanding our lab values, optimizing those to the ideal ranges, and really understanding what a truly heart healthy diet is. Explain the why behind my recommendations so people are empowered and they're able to do this for the long term.
Wow. Yeah, even for me, I am very passionate about finding biohacks and preventative measures. And because, I want to be around to see my grandkids. And if something, if I can prevent getting sick and before my time, I'm doing a service to my children and my grandchildren and my family. And I could theoretically change my
100%.
family tree. Right. But then when
Yeah.
I get online and I Google, best supplements for my heart, then if I start deep diving, which I always do until I get that cognitive closure, you know what I mean? I can close the loop and say, yes, this is the thing I need to implement into my life. And it can get very convoluted and confusing because I will see conflicting information, even in peer reviewed research. Oftentimes I'll see different, take this, but then this is a risk factor of taking that. And if you have to take this, then you have to take this with that. And if you take this with that and you're not getting your blood work done, then you might be doing liver damage and it's toxic,
Uh,
so it can, and
yeah.
then it's easy to feel burnt out and just throw up the white flag and say, never mind. I'm not going to do anything.
Right, but I
Right.
think it's also because people who are researching on Google are not looking at it from a standpoint of someone who's looking at you and you as a person, your lifestyle, your medical history, the medications that you may be on, what other supplements you're taking, what your blood values are. So the personalization aspect needs to come in to ensure that it's safe for you so that you're not doing damage and you're really understanding how to read these peer reviewed articles. Because some of them, even though there's research, there's good research, and there's also research that still isn't giving you sound evidence. And so we need to be able to decipher that and understand all of that together.
So yeah, there can be a lot of conflicting information on the internet, whether, you're looking at peer reviewed articles and get conflicting advice. And it can be easy to feel overwhelmed and just kind of want to throw up the white flag and give up the whole idea. Right.
Definitely. I think it's important that you consult with your healthcare team about those supplements and what you're trying to take in, because it needs to be personalized. Some individuals have slight kidney issues or slight liver issues and they can't process those supplements. They can also interfere with certain medications that you might be on. They might also not work with your medical condition. So we need to look at the whole picture before we're kind of just trying a magic pill with a supplement. We also need to understand that just because a peer review article was published, it doesn't mean the science is sound. A lot of them are sponsored by certain supplement companies, and so they can be skewed in that regard. So we need to understand it from, is it using the scientific method? Is it using a non-judgmental, no conflict, no financial conflict kind of approach, and ensuring that the study is actually sound and well conducted in a large population before we can say, yes, that works. If there's someone that's saying that this is going to work for everyone, it's probably not going to be helpful to you, because you can never have one thing that works for everyone. There's no one magic pill. You need to look at the whole picture. And while I specialize I'm a dietitian, even within heart disease, we're looking at nutrition as a very important component, but so is exercise, so is sleep, so is stress, so is, hydration, so is emotional health. All of these things take a huge component to your cardiovascular disease risk assessment. And we need to make sure we're addressing them all from a healthy standpoint in order to truly reduce your risk of heart disease. And so by saying, okay, I'm going to take take this one supplement and it's going to prevent me from a heart attack. That's just marketing. And we need to
You're
look
breaking my
through
heart,
those
Michelle.
lens.
I was hoping for an easy win.
I know. And that's what people want. But honestly, that's not how our heart works. Our hearts get clogged with what we eat. And if we're stressed, our arteries are constantly constricting, which is also going to put stress in our heart. If we over exercise, our bodies produce too much oxidative stress and it cause fibrosis around the heart. So we need to look at everything. It's not just a quick fix of, oh, well, I exercise, so I don't need to work on anything else. Heart disease is the number one killer because we kind of pigeonhole a lot of times what we're doing well, and we don't look at the whole picture.
Wow. I love the way you phrased that earlier. We think of it in silos, or we compartmentalize these particular goals, or we're just hyper focused on cholesterol or our liver or kidneys or one particular marker, right? Or one particular lifestyle habit. Like you said, maybe, oh, I run on the treadmill. I run 3 miles a day, so I don't need to do anything else, or I don't need to look at anything else. And I think oftentimes people feel, at least myself, I feel overwhelmed and confused sometimes, or will even get what's called that halo effect. Like, well, I'm doing this over here really well, so then I can go, I don't need to eat as well over here. Or maybe it's just lack of knowledge, right?
Definitely.
And so, yeah. So in your experience, because this is such a valuable niche that you're in, right? Looking at just the heart as well as the holistic approach, what has been your experience in finding patterns? What really moves the needle in terms of health, wellness, and cardiovascular health in particular?
Yeah. So I think it's really looking at like I mentioned, the whole picture, but also adding in therapeutic foods. So a lot of times when you have when my clients come home from having a heart attack or going to cardiac rehab, they get a laundry list of what not to eat. Then they don't have a list of what they can eat. So they're kind of lost. They're afraid. If I eat this, will I have another heart attack? It's a really scary moment. We need a lot of food and a lot of vitamins and nutrients in order for our bodies to optimally function. So I really focus on, with all my clients, nutrient sufficiency. So I have clients who come to me and say, I'm vegan and I want to stay vegan. I have other clients who say to me, I'm a big meat eater. I can't give up meat. And I don't tell them you got to follow this diet or that. I meet them where they are, but my main focus is on nutrient sufficiency. So if someone comes to me who's vegan, there are several nutrients you can't get through vegan foods. So we would have to supplement. We'd have to make sure you're getting the right amounts for your body. And then the individuals who don't, we want to make sure there's the right balance, but also, are you getting folate and manganese and L-arginine and all these different important nutrients to expand the arteries, remove any cholesterol buildup, and ensure that we're optimizing pathways that help address inflammation and oxidative stress and insulin resistance, which are the three factors that are the root causes for having a heart attack. So a lot of times what my main focus on is explaining and educating my clients and explaining the why, but really focusing on, what are we eating? What are we adding to the diet that's so vital? What a lot of people don't realize is you can have elevated cholesterol that doesn't turn into plaque, which is that hardened substance in the arteries, but you can also have cholesterol that does. And the environment that the blood vessel is in is what causes that plaque to form, but also for that plaque to become unstable and lead to a cardiovascular event. So how we are addressing our blood vessel health by adding in therapeutic foods is vital for optimal heart health. And so we need to get into that mindset of not I can't eat this, I can't eat that. It's, oh my God, I can eat all of these foods. And when I do, I feel good. I have more energy. I can work out better. I wake up not lethargic. I have better bowel movements. I have better gut health. I have less bloating, less acid reflux. And I'm also optimizing all of my lab values, and I'm protecting my heart. So it's a shift in mindset. And, a lot of my clients joke, they're like, Michelle, I'm so upset at you. I'm like, what'd I do? He goes, I went away for the weekend. I didn't eat anything that I ate what I used to eat, not what I'm now eating. And I felt gross. I didn't realize I felt so heavy and lethargic and just like run down. And, I never compared it because I haven't eaten that way in so long. And, what you fuel your body with is so important. And what we add is very important. We have to definitely reduce certain foods to optimize cardiovascular health, but the focus on adding is very important for optimal success, for optimal sustainability, and to make sure you're getting all of the nutrients that your part needs to thrive.
Wow. So I think you bring up a really, really good point, is that it's not just about increasing our lifespan or trying to prevent heart disease. It's about our quality of life. It's
Yeah.
about how we feel, and our body will oftentimes tell us if something is off. And if we change our lifestyle, if we have some targeted things we're implementing into our lifestyle in terms of our diet and otherwise, even stress reduction, then our bodies will tell us, right, that we're making progress. And
Yeah.
in my world, in mental health, oftentimes, I would say probably a majority of the time, when I'm working with clients who are depressed or anxious or um, unhappy, it almost always has some kind of co-occurring issue with health, right? Be that diabetes, be that high blood pressure, be that cardiovascular history, life, a lot of stress, life stress, financial stress, housing stress, and relationship stress. And certainly all of that affects how we feel, right? It's not, again, not a silo.
Definitely.
Mental health is not a silo, right?
Definitely.
From our physical
Yeah.
health.
But
Yeah.
I hear a lot of times, I just felt I was supposed to feel that way because I'm getting older. Like that's an
Mhm.
often saying. And when they realize that when they add in the right foods, they feel like 20, 30 years younger, it shouldn't be. So if you ever feel like, oh my God, I'm achy, I'm this, but it's because I'm older, let's reevaluate that, because you should feel good. You should feel good at every age. And you should make sure that if you have those symptoms, that you're looking for assistance or help support you to get to a better quality of life and to feel good. Because we don't want an excuse of why you might be feeling that way. There's usually a reason.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So I'm wondering, for myself, of course, and our listeners, what are some have you come across any kind of red flags that the body might send off if we need to start paying more attention to our health, our diet? Or is it
Yeah.
completely like subtle and stealthy, the
So
issues?
there's a lot of red flags. One thing that I would look at the most, or one very important, they're all very important, is GI issues. So if you have diarrhea or if you're constipated, that is a very red flag that your cardiovascular health needs attention to. And the
Mm,
reason why I say that is because if you're having diarrhea very frequently, or that's like your normal, which happens a lot and no one really talks about it, that can be a sign of malabsorption. It could be a sign that you are depleting several nutrients that your heart needs to beat regularly, that your heart needs to function properly, to pump blood properly. So if you have diarrhea, we need to address that. If you have constipation, there's no way we can keep your arteries clean. Everything's getting clogged.
mm,
And so we don't want that. In order for me to know without you taking a blood test that we have optimized your lipid panel and your blood sugar panel, is if you're having good, effective bowel movements. And every time I have my 90-minute comprehensive evaluation on all of my clients, I always ask them, so how are your bowel movements? And everyone usually says, oh, they're regular, because they're regular to them. They don't know any different.
hmm.
And then I start asking them to keep track of it. I show them the Bristol stool chart, trying to see where they are. And they go, after we've added all these therapeutic foods, like, Michelle, my bowel movements were really bad. I was severely constipated and I didn't know, or I was having diarrhea and I had no idea, because that was their normal. So your bowel history can give us a lot of information of how things are going. I've also seen a lot of people who have plaque formation in their arteries. They take a coronary artery calcium scan and they see that they've had plaque. And a lot of times they've had a history of constipation, or they've had diverticulitis or diverticulosis in their history. And those
Hmm.
years of constipation was causing clogging in the arteries. So bowel movements, super important. We also know that if you have acid reflux or you have bloating after a meal, those are also signs that your body's not digesting certain foods, which can cause some underlying inflammation. So that's definitely a flag. Another flag I would say is stubborn weight loss. So a lot of times people say, "Oh, I got into menopause and so my weight doesn't come off," or "Oh, my abdominal region is where I hold all my weight and it doesn't budge no matter how little I eat. I don't know what's going on." And that's a sign that there's insulin resistance or inflammation. And those two things brew plaque and make the plaque be unstable. So we need to target waist circumference, but also, stubborn weight loss. There's usually an underlying factor that your body's holding on to that weight. And so we need to explore that. A lot of my clients who come to me with stubborn weight loss, their waist circumference in 1 month goes down 2 to 4 inches. That's not body weight. Their body weight does not actually move in that time frame. But what we've done is we address inflammation, we address insulin resistance, and then month 2, they start losing weight. And so that's a big red flag as well. But I also say if you have to wake up and you need a couple cups of coffee to wake up, or at 3 o'clock, you're getting caffeine, you need a soda, you need something with caffeine to function, that's a red flag too. Your body should not be craving caffeine or need it to wake up and to be productive. Your body should be energized to do that. And so if we're relying on a hunch several times a day, that's also a red flag in my book to, hey, there's something underlying going on that we need to address.
Okay, Michelle, I think you're reading my diary. No.
I mean, having a cup of coffee in the morning, that's perfectly fine. It's really that I have a lot of clients who, like, at 2, 3 o'clock, they need another cup of coffee. And we work on making sure we're giving them, it's usually a nutrient deficiency that's causing that.
Wow. You just hit on so many things that I feel just become, like you said, commonplace or common complaints, or just things we accept as being part of who we are, whether that be our GI upset, bowel movements, whether that be our bloating. I just thought I could add grape nuts to my diet and be all good, but I guess it's not that simple. It comes to your heart. But yeah, definitely it also sounds like you're tying this thread between inflammation, which we hear about a lot, and plaque, but I don't necessarily know that they always are part of the same conversation from what I've heard anyway. Why do you think that is?
So plaque formation is not a simple process. It's actually about a 4-step process. What happens is when your arteries are, but if you have no plaque in your arteries are really healthy, great lifestyle. Your arteries are nice and smooth. The blood vessel lining is very smooth and it has good vascular tone, which means that when your heart needs to contract, or it constricts when it needs to open, and vasodilate, it opens up. So it's constantly going like this very easily. If you have high cholesterol or high blood pressure or high blood sugar levels or an underlying chronic inflammatory condition, whether it's fatty liver disease or gout or lupus or anything, or psoriasis, you can aggravate the blood vessel lining, and that causes a little tear to happen. And when you have a little tear in the artery, and there's underlying inflammation from all of these things in the blood vessel that's not supposed to be there, that's when plaque goes into the artery wall and starts hardening and narrowing your arteries and making it more rigid and harder for blood to flow. When we think about inflammation, it's hard to visualize because it's a low-grade inflammation, meaning that our body is our blood vessels have some level of aggravation causing this inflammation to happen. And that inflammation causes more substances to get stuck in the artery walls and leads to more of that narrowing and that plaque. And if you have plaque already there and there's inflammation on top of that, that's when it starts to rupture that plaque and lead to a blood clot. So inflammation is very key, but it's not something that you'll necessarily feel. When you have a cut or a bruise, and you'll see the inflammatory process happen, but when it's internal, it's low grade. So you don't really see it. But if all of these silent conditions, so to speak, that appear on your blood tests and when you go to your physical are red flags that we need to do something about it, because that can be a sign of low-grade inflammation, which is the brewer of more plaque to form. It accelerates that plaque process. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at everything. And one of the things that I notice a lot is many times people will go to their physician and they'll go to their annual, look at their blood tests, and they're like, "Oh, my doctor never called me. He said everything looks good," or he left me a voicemail saying saying everything looked good. They never get a copy of their blood test. And so when I'm doing their assessment and I'm looking at red flags, they've had high cholesterol levels, they've had high blood sugar, they've kidney issues, they have all these things that the doctor never said because it wasn't in a specific number that caused for medication. A lot of the physicians, especially in Western medicine, are going to tell you cholesterol's high, I need to give you a statin when it gets to a certain threshold, but it still could be elevated before that threshold, and they might not ever tell you. So you need to be proactive in your health and say, oh my goodness, my LDL is high. It might not be at the point of needing a statin, but if I don't do anything, then the next visit, you're going to be asked to go on a statin. So we need to know our numbers. And when we see trends going up, when we see that they're not in the ideal number, we need to bring them down through nutrition and lifestyle. Our Western doctors are not well versed in nutrition because that's not what they went to school for. And people don't acknowledge that. We kind of give this idea that physicians do everything about health. They're doing medical interventions. And so there's some doctors who will say, hey, you need to do something about this, but oftentimes they won't. And this also is very apparent if someone is a normal weight and they have elevated values. You can have heart disease whether you are underweight, normal weight, or overweight. Heart disease does not discriminate. So I want you to know your numbers. I say this so much. And if you don't understand them, ask questions. This is your care. You can't just let someone say, okay, you're good, come back next year. Know your numbers, assess your trends, and make sure that if it is elevated, you're improving what you can improve now. So we're avoiding any future complications, because heart disease brews for many years or decades, depending on your genetic history, before it causes a heart attack, before it causes a complication. So if we don't do this early on, then you might suffer from it later on because it's very prevalent and we need to be more proactive at a younger age.
Wow. You just really unpacked that, painted a really kind of scary and awesome picture of the impact of inflammation. Almost sounds like inflammation is enemy number one, it would seem. And then also being self-educated, not just being on the defensive, like you said, don't eat this, but also being on the offense, like going into our doctor's appointment, knowing what questions we want to ask, what we need clarification about, taking some responsibility for our lab work and making sure we get a copy. And then I work with a lot of clients who also see psychiatrists. And a lot of times psychiatrists will be like, oh, I need to get your lab work done. And they'll be like, oh, well, I had my lab work done at my primary office, not too long ago. I'm like, okay, get me a copy. And, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months later, I'm still talking to them like, hey, did you ever get that lab work to the psychiatrist? Oh, no, I forgot. I need to call them again. So oftentimes I'll have to nudge them or get on the phone with them and call, the LabCorp or Primex or whatever lab company they're using, and be like, hey, can we get a copy of that faxed over, please? Because it's so much, at least even for me, out of sight, out of mind. Even during the pandemic, I was like, oh, I need to get my blood work done, but I haven't seen my doctor in a couple of years. And at least I was getting it done every year before the pandemic. But it's, I can imagine if I, in this kind of health world and who, is self-conscious about my health, kind of put it on the back burner. I can imagine other people too, kind of being like, oh yeah, that thing, that lab work, need to check that box. But that's about as far as oftentimes people will take it.
Right. And that's not, and that's why I think it's super important we're having this conversation, because I want all your listeners to be more proactive. And you know what? Even if you don't have high blood pressure, I would advise, if you want to be more proactive, get one. You don't need to test it every day, but test it periodically and see what that value is. Blood pressure is a very big sign that your heart is overworking, and it is one of the most silent killers because it causes an increase of stroke, increase of heart failure, increase of an enlarged heart. It can cause a heart aneurysm. I've seen a lot of people not know they have blood pressure for years. And then they never had high cholesterol, but their high blood pressure led to a heart attack. So even if you're not going physically to get blood work done, there's also a lot of at-home kits and tests that you could send out if it's hard to get blood work otherwise. But every physical, you should be getting your blood work at least once a year. And if there's any red flags, you should test it in 3 6 months. Don't wait a whole nother year to see how it went. But blood pressure also is very neglected in terms of what it does. I've seen a lot of people go into a physical, into the office, and they get their blood pressure done and they have white coat syndrome, which means they get anxiety when they see a doctor, and it's elevated. And the doctor's like, oh, it's because you're seeing a white coat. Don't worry about it. But it actually, a lot of time, is true hypertension, and it's never treated. And that can cause a lot of damage. So if you ever have white coat syndrome, make sure you test your blood pressure at home and see what that value is to assess, is it true white coat or is it high blood pressure? And also, if you're doing a lot of telemedicine visits, because now with the new age of COVID, we're really switching over to a lot more telemedicine. I know my private practice, I'm 100% virtual right now, and I was 100% in my New York City office in Manhattan before the pandemic happened. And so we're not testing blood pressure as often. So it can go also undetected. So if you have a virtual physical, I want you to test your blood pressure also at home. You can get a really affordable blood pressure cuff for about $20, $30, and it can really save your life.
Yeah, so I've heard, even, swing by CVS or Walgreens and
grab they have the
machine, right?
But even if you don't want to buy it, every CVS, every pharmacy has a blood pressure like little station that you can test your blood pressure on.
Yeah, I'll give you all the numbers too. Whenever I'd be in the mall before the pandemic, they have that little station right there, and just I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna stick my arm in there and just get a eyeball, because you want to know, right? It's simple. It takes like 5 minutes of your time.
And you don't feel high blood pressure a lot of the times. Oh, well, that's also another thing. So high blood pressure, you don't really feel, but some people will get headaches. And that can also be correlated with high blood pressure too. So if you are one of those symptoms where you get headaches periodically or randomly, don't take that for granted. Like, make sure that you test that too.
Absolutely. Now, I know I've heard, I don't know if this is the case. Is there a perfect time to test your blood pressure, or like when you first wake up, after a meal, before a meal, after you've been up and about for a bit?
So, good question. When we look at the research, taking it in the morning is the best predictor of a cardiovascular event. So your AM blood pressure is optimal. But if you have known high blood pressure, I like to first test it in the morning. Once we get that normalized, let's move it to the middle of the day. Let's move it to your most stressful point of day, because your blood pressure will fluctuate, and we want to pinpoint at any time where it is fluctuating so we can have an intervention point so that we're shifting it to normal values throughout, because the AM is the top priority. But once we get that normalized, and if you have a history of high blood pressure, we want to move throughout the day just so that we have a good understanding and a good rhythm of normalized blood pressure throughout your entire day and routine.
Excellent. Good advice. Good advice. So we've talked about a lot of different things, right? Inflammation, blood pressure, plaque in the arteries, lab work. What do you feel would be, in your experience, kind of the low-hanging fruit for our listeners to start paying really close attention to, and anything they can start implementing into their lives now in order to start hitting some of those numbers that are so important?
Yeah. Well, just to clarify the question, like I mentioned before, knowing your numbers. Okay, now you know your numbers. You get a copy of your blood test. You don't just get a copy of this year. You get a copy of last year too, or the last time you got it, to assess your trends. And then if you see something trending up, we need to address it with nutrition, physical activity, hydration, stress, all of those factors. But so some people, it's very overwhelming. It's a lot of things to change. And one thing that I really want to emphasize is that A, you don't need to be perfect to be heart healthy and protect your heart. So don't feel like you have to do everything 100%. But B, we need to do this long term. Heart disease is not something where, okay, if you eat very healthy for 1 month, you're going to prevent heart disease. You need me to be doing it as a routine and as a lifestyle for the rest of your life in order to truly protect your heart. So quick fixes, fad diets, they're really not going to be helpful. We need to look at it as doing small changes and creating habits over time. So with my clients, I usually choose 3 to 4 habits, and usually 2 are in nutrition and 2 are outside of nutrition. So whether that's stress and sleep, to make sure that we are hitting all the points, because all of them do matter, and to decrease, the overwhelm. But choose one meal. Start maybe with breakfast. Is it well balanced? Does it have lean protein and complex carbs and heart healthy fat? Do you have all the vitamins and minerals? Make sure that we are starting the day off properly. Once that's perfected, let's move to lunch. Let's choose one at a time, because that's going to help keep you successful, but also keep you mindful of your choices and making sure that it's not overwhelming, but realistically implementable for the long term. So start small, but choose things that are really going to be impactful. And if you have a challenge, if you can't do something in 6 months or 1 year from now, we need to scratch it and create something else for you, because this needs to be long lasting if you really want to reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. But you need to be aware that everybody is at risk. So knowing your numbers, optimizing those numbers, but also looking at what you're putting into your body, regardless of those numbers, is important. Because knowing that it's the number one killer, we need to address it all, and we need to be prioritizing our health in order to truly reduce risk. But knowing your numbers is going to help guide you on that, because most people need an outside motivator, and usually if they see a number not where it's supposed to be, they're more motivated to bring it down. But understand the why behind what you're doing. Understand why you would want to eat this food versus that food, because that helps you frame your choices, and also to add in more of those therapeutic foods that we want you to consume.
Excellent. Excellent. So it's when you're doing an assessment with a new client and you're looking at all of the, I guess, points of intervention, if you were, is there a specific, are there specific markers you're looking at, or lifestyle habits that you hone in on, or what does that look like for you when you're actually taking the bird's eye view
Yeah.
of a starting
So,
place?
so because I've been doing this for 15 years, I ask a lot of strategic questions to get to know everything about you. It's 90 minutes of me asking a lot of questions,
I can
and
imagine.
what I'm doing is I'm asking you questions specifically in all of the buckets that make cardiovascular risk assessment full in its entirety. But I'm also asking questions because I want to learn about you. I want to learn about your lifestyle. I want to learn about your culture. I want to learn about the foods you like to eat, because cookie cutter plans don't work, or else heart disease wouldn't be the number one killer. It needs to be personalized and customized. So I want to know, are you eating out at restaurants 3 meals a week? Are you traveling a lot? Are you, is someone else cooking for you? Are you cooking for yourself? Are you cooking for your children? What does that look like? I want to know, what do you have access to? Where are you shopping? How many times a week? What's your budget? All of those things matter, because if I don't take that into account, you won't be successful. And so my assessment allows me to create a health resource guide and a meal plan specific to each client. And every client is going to be different. There are many clients who have very poor sleep, and it might not be some might be because of stress and just not prioritizing it, but a lot of times it's because of magnesium or a B vitamin deficiency. And so my questions are targeted around, what are they eating regularly? What do they avoid? What does their whole morning and evening routine look like? What does their socialization look like? So I'm asking all these questions because I want to merge the science and my patients' lifestyles into one for their success. It's really about creating that lifestyle change. And so I need to know everything about your lifestyle. I also ask questions about, when we talk about stress, I want to know what works for you, right? So I'll say, when you're really stressed, do you even know it's happening? Can you identify it? And if you can, what do you do in that moment to help reduce it? I'm not someone who's going to be like, well, everyone has to do yoga and meditation. It's more, I need you to find your yoga and meditation, and we explore that together, because it needs to work for you. And there's no cookie cutter, not everything's going to work for everyone. And so by doing that thorough evaluation, I get to know you, and I help you and support you in your goals so that we can truly reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. And I'm there to support you, be a resource and a guide for you, and really create something that's going to resonate and make sure it's easily implementable into your current lifestyle.
Thank you so much for touching on that because it is such a personal thing. Not everybody can afford to eat organic all the time, and everybody has a different, like you said, lifestyles. A lot of people, when I talk to clients too, a lot of them, they're not even preparing their own meals. It's family preparing their meals, especially if they're
Yeah,
on disability or disabled and can't take care of themselves, or like on a budget, or a very fixed tight budget, and they can't always afford to eat the way they would like to eat. And so figuring out what their day in day out routine is must be crucial, right?
definitely.
Yeah. And just to clarify for those, in case you missed the intro, you're not just a dietitian. You're a dietitian who specializes in cardiology and prevention, right? And you're also a certified diabetes educator, right?
Yes.
So you're kind of like the triple threat, when it comes to nutrition. And I just want to commend you for that, because I know that's no small feat. But it also gives you a lot in your arsenal, I imagine, when you're doing these assessments and you're trying to get a foothold in somebody's lifestyle and figuring out what's going to move the needle for them. You have a very unique and educated perspective in terms of what you're looking for.
Yeah, I
Right.
appreciate that. A lot of times people say, well, I don't have diabetes. I know you specialize in cardiology. I'm confused. 70% of people who have a heart attack have insulin resistance. And so a lot of my assessment is assessing for insulin resistance and helping you reduce insulin resistance so that we are optimizing heart health too. So they are very correlated, and they're really important, and everybody needs to be mindful of it. Just because you might be insulin resistant for over a decade or 2 decades before you even get to diabetes or prediabetes. So we know that it can brew for a long time before it presents in laboratory parameters. So it is also a big part of my assessment, but also my teachings, because we need to address all prongs of it in order to truly reduce heart disease. I wish it was more simpler in terms of my calculation, but my mission really is to get to the bottom of all of this. And I think it's really about having more of a thorough assessment and a thorough guidance to really being proactive in heart health care.
Wow. And so eerie. I love the way you phrase that. Inflammation's brewing plaque. It's kind of like this cauldron that's like so insidious and subtle and stealthy. And I think it takes a lot of work to really pay attention, right? And do things with intention and get educated. And but it's probably one, if not the most important places we can invest our energy and our time is our health, right? It's other than time, it's the only non-renewable resource we have, right? Our health. And so, and it's
100%.
it's kind of a domino effect. So
Yeah. And I want people to start being mindful of their health before it becomes an issue.
Going back to what you were
Right.
saying about even the lab work, right?
Yeah.
We can say, okay, something's elevated, and so it's not a concern, but really that's the time to take action, right? As we see
Yes.
something's elevated, not critical, before we need the medication.
So I was actually speaking with this really renowned lipidologist who's been a lipidologist for over 45 years. He actually was the first person to really understand lipids, and he's taught over 400,000 lectures like worldwide. He's an amazing guy. And I said to him, listen, this is my mission. And he laughs and he's like, Michelle, like that's a great mission to reduce this cardiovascular burden. But when someone comes to my office, they're usually in their 50s or 60s. They already have plaque, they already have heart disease. And yes, we can treat them. We can help reduce furthermore, and we can help increase their longevity. Anytime someone comes to us, we can help them. But to really reduce this global burden, we need to look at younger individuals. We need to start being more proactive on our health as early as possible. And we shouldn't wait until something happens and then seek help. And, I really value that advice because he's seen so much in his what he does and his knowledge. And it's so true. And so we need to be influencing our younger generations and being more proactive in our health as soon as we can. We often wait for something to happen in order to go see the doctor. And we really shouldn't. We hope, we can prevent and live a long, healthy life. I want people to live a long, healthy life doing the things they love to do and not having to worry about their health, because then you can enjoy all those things that you love. And so by being proactive, by teaching younger generations about health and leading that example is really important for cardiovascular burden reducing it globally in the sense of making it not the number one killer. So I feel like everyone could take action today to be more proactive in their health and to understand what's going on and to seek additional support if you need to, just so that you are really reducing your risk.
And it's such a fantastic mission. I commend you for that. And prevention, early intervention, we know is critical if we're going to change the curve, right? We don't want this to be the number one killer in society anymore. And in order to do that, we have to change the way that we're being educated around it, right? In terms of prevention.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to be able to know what to tell my kids, what, eat this, don't eat that, not just because, hey, vegetables are good for you, right? But because this is what's happening. And these are the things to really nail down because it's important for your longevity, your health. And I want to be able to feel confident as a parent in telling and educating my kids and not talking out of two sides of my mouth and saying, okay, here's your broccoli, but here's some more syrup for your waffles. I need,
right, but it's also
hard as a parent, right? Because I do the same thing with myself,
But it's also
they see me making my green smoothies and they see me eating an ice cream sandwich, and that can be mixed messages, right? If we're not being aligned.
But it's all like you mentioned. So I have 3 kids too, and it's also by leading by example. We don't in my house, we all eat heart healthy, and we talk about what it does for our body. We don't eliminate their kids. I'm not going to eliminate all like the so quote unquote kids foods or sweets, but they understand what's going to make them feel good, what's going to keep them strong, what's going to keep their brain working properly, and the things that might make them a little yucky if they eat too much of it. And we need to teach that to the kids, but we also need to encourage them to be testing their, at the appropriate age, making sure they're going to the doctor and getting all of those numbers tested, and really being proactive in that sense too. We also need to teach them, give them emotional intelligence, right? A lot of times we're not in tune with their feelings, and we need to be, because that's important. We need them to guide by their hunger signals. We need them to be enjoying physical movement, not as a form of, hey, let's go on the treadmill together, but hey, let's go outside in nature and go bike riding and play soccer and do things that you like to do. It's hard being a parent, and I know that's a difficult task, but we need to prioritize health and teach our kids to prioritize health, or else we get in this hustle and bustle and we start losing mindfulness. We start losing routine. We start decreasing the boundaries that are needed for nourishing our bodies and for prioritizing sleep and proper sleep habits and stress. It all starts when they're young. And, as a dietitian, this is something I prioritize with my children, especially because it's my way of living, but we should all be prioritizing it. And I see too often that there's a lot of things that could be improved, and we need to do it with ourselves, or we also need to do it with our kids or our grandkids and really influence the next generations.
That is truth. Sometimes if we don't protect the time for ourselves, it just gets swallowed up, especially when we're busy and we have families and careers, and it becomes so easy to just keep putting everything on the back burner. And I preach from the mountaintops as a therapist about the importance of being mindful and self-care. But then I don't always practice what I preach. Not that I can't. It's that I fall victim to the same thing everybody else does, things that compete for our attention and competing goals and values, and allowing other things to swallow up that time. But even with children, it's so important to model for them balance and healthy lifestyle, and putting our health first. It is definitely ongoing battle, and something we need to be consistently mindful of.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering for our listeners, right? Okay, so we're giving them marching orders, right? We're saying, go talk to your dietitian. As I tell most of my clients, ask your doctor for a referral to a certified diabetes educator. Look, there's a database. You can look up your local certified diabetes educator. You can look up a nutritionist. And oftentimes doctors will just write an open prescription, if you were, for, okay, here's a prescription, go find yourself a dietitian. And they don't know where to start. They don't even know where to start.
I mean, so it's interesting because I have a lot of clients who've seen other dietitians before. And they tell me, they're like, you're so different from other dietitians. And I always say, everyone's going to jive with someone else. Like, you need, even if you go to a certified diabetes educator or a dietitian and they didn't give a lot of people say, well, this person didn't tell me anything I didn't know. You need to explore it a little bit. But there's always other individuals. You need to find that right fit for you. With all of my clients, I do a 15-minute complimentary discovery call if someone's interested in meeting with me to see if we're a good fit. Because it needs to go both ways. And sometimes, if someone is not in my niche and I can't truly help them, I'll refer them to someone else. If I definitely can work with them and I know I can help them and help them reach their goals, I'll tell them a little bit about me in the sense of knowing what they expect. And so we both need to align for this relationship to move forward. And you can explore that option with other dietitians too. You should be kind of shopping around. You don't need to just call one person. Most people who come to are my clients, they've spoken with many people before they decide to work with me. And I encourage that. It's important that you have that right relationship. So if your doctor says you should go see a dietitian or another person, call them, see if you can speak with them for a quick 5-10 minutes, see if it would be a good fit for your goals and your desires and your personality, and then take it from there. Because just because someone says you have to go see this person but it didn't work out for you, there's other people that can help you. So don't feel otherwise.
Thank you for bringing that up. Everybody's human. Doctors are human, dietitians, therapists, everybody's human. And so finding out who, trying on different hats and seeing what jives with you. I know so much information, like drinking out of a water hose here. What can someone do as they're preparing for an interview or an assessment or an appointment with a dietitian? What can they do to prepare in advance for that kind of assessment so that they can get the most out of their visit, their time, so they can get most direct feedback? Anything they should be presenting or preparing in advance?
Yeah, so I like to see lab work. If you have lab work, maybe a couple years of lab work, that's always helpful. If you were admitted to the hospital or you had a heart attack or you had a stent placement, having any medical information is helpful. Not always 100% necessary if it's really hard to find, but it does give a good understanding, because most of the time medical jargon is hard for a layman to kind of explain. So when someone tells me, oh, this was happened to me, but then I read their medical records, there's a little bit of a discrepancy. And I like to be transparent. So I'll explain those discrepancies so they know what's going on in their bodies. So I do like to see that. If you're taking supplements, don't just say, I'm taking B12, 1,000 micrograms. I like to see the label, the name, the brand, because B12 supplements are not regulated, and every single supplement has either a positive or a beneficial. There's different ways to evaluate them. So I like to look at the labels of all supplements. So if you're taking supplements, make sure you have those labels. If you're taking a protein powder or anything that you're taking regularly, those are also considered supplements. They are not regulated by the FDA. Those should be properly evaluated by the dietitian as well. If you were to kind of write down what you eat, or if you always eat at certain restaurants, or if there's always a pattern of, oh, I have a couple questions on what I'm currently using. Is my salad dressing okay? Is my cereal okay? Bring that to the meeting. That's why I like my Zoom meetings, because I like them to bring stuff with them. Excellent. Or get stuff from the pantry. But you could take pictures and send it to the dietitian, because whatever you're ingesting, whatever you're putting in your diet should be part of the conversation, to be fully looking at all pictures. Because you can say, oh, I'm just having this and this, but without reading those little intricate things, we can't truly evaluate it to the T that we want to.
Wow, props to you, because I know that's overlooked when you're with a practitioner and you don't necessarily have the detailed list of everything you're ingesting and on a routine, and like the hidden supplements people don't talk about. I know as a counselor, when I'm going through the medical portion of an assessment, and I have a special little section there where I ask about the diet, and sometimes I'll ask the question 3 or 4 different times, different ways, and I'll get finally more information. They'll bring up like the 4th time, oh, you didn't tell me you were taking that. That's good to know. Let's make sure we make a note of that so the psychiatrist knows you're taking X, Y, and Z, right? Whether it's like 5-HTP or something else that's not typical. right? You're taking tryptophan, or you're taking, this or that, or Herbalife or something, that's probably good for them to know, because there could be interactions that could influence things. So yeah, fantastic. So that's a fire tip for anyone listening. Please make a detailed list of everything you are ingesting, a food diary, supplements, take pictures, so that you can be fully armed, because this is really about taking action that's going to make a difference. And it's hard to do that unless you know exactly what you're working with.
Yeah. Exactly.
Excellent. So, so much we could dive into more. Where can we send our listeners to learn more about you and the work you're doing?
So I have my website, entirelynourished.com. I also have my Instagram, heart.health.nutritionist. Those are two of my great places. You can also sign up to my email list. I send out an email once a week with just a recap of a lot of great information for science tips to protect your heart. And I put blog posts out on my website as well for you to read more about and really take ownership of your health.
Excellent. So this would be your website, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Very nicely done. So if somebody wanted to sign up for your email list, for example, to stay educated, they could sign up right here on your website, Entirely Nourished?
Yes. So you see that little on the top, you'll see like the LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram underneath the contact. Other side. On the right
oh,
side.
Sorry. Exactly. Zoom is hiding it.
No, you're good.
Zoom windows.
So
right here.
Yeah, exactly. So right by Instagram, that if you click on that, it'll bring you to sign up to my mailing list.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm all about email lists and getting educated and staying informed, right? It's a really powerful, easy thing to do, right?
Definitely.
Excellent. All right. And if somebody wanted to book a one-on-one call with you, they could do that right here on the site.
So they would book a discovery call. It's a 15-minute complimentary discovery call. And if it's a good fit, then we just schedule the appointment, do the next steps, and we get started.
Excellent. And so then you have all your socials up here, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So looks like you're pretty easy to find.
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. Well, again, a wealth of information. I would love to learn more about your backstory, and again, your shift from medical school prep to nutritionist, and the whole journey. I'm sure there's a lot we could explore there, and I just really appreciate the work you're doing. And this is just a fantastic subject that I personally love: self-care and biohacks and preventative care. And again, we can't separate that from mental health when we're talking about the whole body and the whole person. So would it be okay if we had you back on the show down the road? And
I would love that.
A little bit more. Yeah, I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time and
my pleasure.
Sharing with our audience today.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day, and I know you're further ahead of me over there in New York, so enjoy your afternoon.
Thanks so much. You too. Talk soon.
Hey, if you're getting value from this content and you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube and podcast channels, as well as share with your friends and family. Also, if you subscribe to the MHT newsletter, you'll be notified of new content as it's released, and as a bonus, we'll get access to all of my freebies I have for you there on personal development. All right, so until next time, keep thriving. Bye-bye.